It's Any Given Thursday. I'm Harrison Graham. He is Chase Sr. LSU football rumors are buzzing because Ed Orgeron is firmly on the hot seat. So we'll talk about that. Plus, take a look at 10 candidates that could possibly replace him. So, Chase, the 2019 national title all of a sudden feels very long ago as LSU's off to a 3-3 start this year. They went 5-5 last year in a shortened season. 8-8 since that national title. That ain't going to cut it at LSU.
It's not going to cut it. And what's funny and what's crazy is just how fast LSU has dropped off. Because that 2019 season, they went undefeated. They had the Heisman Trophy winner in Joe Burrow, who probably had the best season that any quarterback has had in the history of college football. That team was littered with a bunch of pro prospects. They were honestly one of the most dominant college football teams I have ever seen. But I think the problem with Ed Orgeron, he is a quality recruiter to a very good recruiter, and maybe he's a solid head coach, but he needs to get those coordinators right. And ever since Joe Burrow left, of course, with Joe Brady, I should say, as well as Dave Aranda, this team has not been the same.
Coach O's toast, and that's too bad because I do like Coach Ed Orgeron, but go Tigers. But he's gone. I mean, he's
That's solid right there.
My Ed Orgeron is very good, and I like the man. He's definitely a good leader of men. But he's toast. You can't go 8-8 in 2 years at LSU. They play Florida this week on the road. They're going to lose that game. And if they do, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired after that game. I think he's gone, and I think he should be. I mean, lightning at a bottle in 2019, he'll always be loved there because of that. I think this will be a mutual type of deal, and he'll go ahead and move on. So what do you guys think before we get to our top 10 candidates? Should LSU fire Ed Orgeron? Type Y for yes, type in for no. Go ahead and cast your votes down in the comments section. All right, so we'll go 10-1, kind of a combination, Chase, of likelihood candidates / big names, and we'll go from 10-1. Don't think Bob Stoops is very likely, but he continues to get brought up. He hasn't dismissed the idea of coaching again. Number 10, worth a call maybe.
He's living a pretty good life.
I know, he's making millions
Big
for
noon
Fox.
kickoff, he's just kicking it, rocking fresh
He's
suits.
doing a good job, too. I've enjoyed my Big Noon kickoff.
Yeah,
so.
I just don't think it's a realistic option for Bob Stoops to go to LSU. Now, if this job opens up, I think that one of the bigger questions is, like, where does it rank among some of the openings out there?
Oh, it's the best job
I think it's
opening.
the best job
Yes.
because you have a pool of recruits that you can pluck from that is one of the best areas in the country to recruit from.
Yep. You can recruit in Texas and everywhere else. Don't think Stoops is likely. I don't really think Urban Meyer's that likely here. I think USC's probably a little more likely. And honestly, I don't think he wants to be known as the guy that bolted the NFL after 1 year as well. I think he really wants to give this a real try in Jacksonville, and they haven't fired him, so I don't think they're going to fire him at this point. They're going to see if he can make it work. Urban, Bob, I mean, they had their heyday. Can they still win at a high level? Maybe, maybe not. Who really knows? Should they get calls? Yes. Are they likely candidates? Not really. That's why they're at number 9 and at number 10. BetUS is the place to make some money throughout the college football season. So go to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code CHAT125. Put down $100. Get $125 for free. It's chatsports.com/bet. Chase and I have been making money all season long betting on college football. So follow us on Twitter for our picks of the week. We'll kind of banter back and forth. How about the other Stoops, Mark Stoops, and what he's done at Kentucky? Hey, I wouldn't have him at the top of my list, but he's doing a damn good job.
The momentum he's been able to build up over time has been very impressive, and he was getting some buzz a couple years ago when Kentucky had a really good season as a guy who could maybe take one of these openings, and then Kentucky dropped off for a year or two. They're back this year.
It's Kentucky,
they
and they're
beat
6-0.
Florida at home, and then they beat LSU. When has Kentucky ever done that? They've been known as a basketball school. This year, their football team might be better than the basketball team.
It definitely was
so
last.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So I think Mark Stoops could do a terrific job, and I think his name is going to be one that is going to be involved in these discussions.
Is LSU too rich for him? Like, is that too good of a job for him to
he's
jump
already
to?
He's already doing well in the SEC.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a fair point. He's got, he's recruited in that area, so hey man, that's why we included him. He's at number 8. How about this one? Kellen Moore at number 7. I would have him higher from a preferential list, but I think he's going to have options in the NFL.
I don't think this is realistic because I think there are so many front offices across the National Football League right now who are monitoring everything that's going on with the Dallas Cowboys. And frankly, the Cowboys, they're going to have a really difficult decision to make. Do you keep Mike McCarthy and let Kellen Moore go, or would you run the risk of making Kellen Moore your head coach because he's done such great things with Dak, and you let go of Mike McCarthy? Or is Jerry Jones just going to be like, hey, Kellen, I'll give you $8 to $10 million a year for you to be the OC?
You privately name him the coach in waiting.
Yeah.
You don't go public because that never goes well.
Yep.
And then you pay him like a head coach.
I think that'd be a smart move. But how would Mike McCarthy think about that? How would he feel about that?
I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Kellen Moore, he's going to have options. What type of head coach should LSU hire? Should they hire an offensive coach, type O? Should they hire a defensive head coach, type D, for defensive? That's the problem with Coach O. He's kind of just a CEO. He's not really that involved on either side of the football. O for offensive or D for defensive. I think this thing started to fall apart, Chase, when Dave Aranda left, their defensive coordinator.
Him and Joe Brady.
Baylor. Had a bad year in his first year at Baylor, but now Baylor's back, I believe, in the top 25 in the Big 12. Could you bring him back? I don't know if I would go in that direction, but I do think he probably would get an interview.
This is always so popular for assistants or former assistants who know the university well, who know the recruiting grounds well, who the fans can rally around. And honestly, when you look at a program like LSU, sometimes the university will make a decision that kind of panders to the fan base. And if the fan base is like, hey, Dave Aranda, he's done a great job with Baylor, which wasn't an easy thing to do coming off all of the success that Matt Rule had, one game away from being in the college football playoff, I think LSU fans could rally around the fact that Dave Aranda would be a very good replacement for Ed Orgeron. If you want more college football videos, the answer to that is very simple. Just hit that red subscribe button down below. We're trying to get to 270,000 subscribers on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. We cover a lot of the NFL, a lot of the NBA. Harrison and I on Any Given Thursday have been covering more college football. The numbers have been successful. We want to continue to chop it up and talk college football, so support us and hit that subscribe button.
Let's get into the top five now here, Chase. Luke Fickell, I think USC makes more sense because of the AD connection with Mike Bone, but I like Fickell's leadership attributes. What he's done at Cincinnati has been very, very impressive, and he's absolutely worthy of an interview here.
I think so, too. I mean, for Luke Fickell to have Cincinnati in a spot where realistically they could make the college football playoff is crazy. If they run the table, I think Cincinnati should get in. And so many people are going to say, it's Cincinnati. They play in the American Athletic Conference. Well, you know how good Georgia is, right? Cincinnati should have beat Georgia in a bowl game last year. Yeah. It came down to the wire, and Cincinnati blew that game in the last 2 minutes.
And that Georgia team is the undisputed number one team in the country.
Exactly. Right? And if they had Bryce Young, I think they'd be much better than Alabama. Not just a little bit, much better.
Yes.
So that goes to show you the job and the hell of a job that Luke Fickell has done.
Yeah, and he beats Indiana and Notre Dame this year. I mean, what do you want the guy to do?
Could he beat Penn State?
Maybe.
That's our next candidate.
James Franklin, he's been getting a lot of buzz with the USC job. I would assume he'd be in the mix at LSU as well. Obviously, Penn State had a slight setback losing to Iowa last week, but if they don't lose their quarterback, Sean Clifford, let's be honest.
I think they win that game.
They win that game.
Yeah.
Franklin's done a great job. He's always recruited well. His in-game management, like you've pointed to in the past, has been questionable at times. I think it's been better this year, but I think that he is certainly someone who would draw interest as well.
I agree. No, it's James Franklin is going to have like a fascinating decision to make because he's already making $8 million at Penn State, right? USC wants him. According to some reports, he's their top candidate. But then if LSU comes calling, if you're James Franklin, what do? Do you go to LSU? Do you go to USC? Do you stay at Penn State and then leverage that into making $9 to $10 million per year? And if you're Penn State, do you want to pay him that? Man, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of bread.
A lot of it. You got to love college football, right? The game is
Don't tell me it's not profitable.
It's a fun game to play. Better job right now, assuming LSU opens, which that has not happened yet. Type U for USC, type L for LSU. I'll be clear on this. It's LSU, and it's not even close.
It's LSU.
Guys.
Better conference, better recruits, and more stability.
Look, USC
more recent success.
USC can recruit on a similar level. You go to some USC games, if they're not a top 5-10 team, they don't sell out. How does that happen? How does USC not sell out?
That's
LSU
wild.
Can be 4-8 and they're selling out Tiger Stadium.
Yeah.
So it's definitely LSU. Let's hop into the top three here. Lane Kiffin, Look, I mean, he's going to be connected to any SEC job opening. We know that. He runs a great offense. I think he's definitely worthy of being in the mix at LSU.
I would make that my number one candidate if this was my personal list. I know it's a combination of names that we both put together, but I would love Lane Kiffin at LSU. I would hire him at USC. I love what Lane Kiffin does in modern-day football, blending spread concepts with NFL concepts and physical concepts. He'll go 4-5 wide, and then he'll go up in the I formation. I think he's rebuilt his image over time. I think he'd be great at LSU.
He's turned Matt Corral, who was splitting time as a starter 2 years ago at Ole Miss, came from a JUCO program, to maybe the best quarterback entering the NFL draft.
Hey, Lane Kiffin against Nick Saban for the next few years,
yeah.
I'm all in. It's a better rivalry if it's Lane at LSU than it is at him with Ole Miss.
How about Jimbo Fisher? Now, A&M, he just brought A&M their biggest regular season victory since they beat Alabama with Johnny Manziel 9 years ago in 2012. Huge win for him, huge win for Zach Calzada, the quarterback there. But you can't tell me if LSU comes calling, he's not at least going to entertain an offer. I think he would stay at A&M with how much he's invested there and how much they've invested in him, but you can't tell me he's not at least listening.
Yeah, no, he has to be because, again, as we've been talking about throughout
LSU's a better job.
It's the better job. And if you want an opportunity to compete for a national championship year in and year out, you go to LSU. Do you have an opportunity to compete for a championship every single year at Texas A&M? The answer to that question is no. Just simply no.
He's getting them closer to that. We saw them last year,
but at LSU, it's a next level.
You can do no doubt. Yeah, what he's elevated A&M's status in college football, but not to the point of LSU.
Yep.
Like it's just they're not there yet. I don't know if they'll ever get there. Joe Brady, number one. Now, Chase said Lane Kiffin won. I'm going to go Brady because I'm trying to bring back the magic of 2 years ago. Now, was that more player-driven? Who knows? I mean, look, they find Joe Burrow on the transfer market from Ohio State. Jamar Chase becomes a freak show. Justin Jefferson. I get all that. But Joe Brady, what he did with that offense, I know he wasn't even calling plays, but that was his offense. Let's make that very, very clear.
Yeah.
I think he's the number one guy, man.
Here's the thing, too. It's like, you can say that you had Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, as well as Jamar Chase, and a very good defense, Patrick Queen, whatever, right? But let's not forget that going into that final season for Joe Burrow, before he won the Heisman Trophy, he was looked at as a mid to late round pick at best.
Yes.
Some people thought that he wasn't even going to get drafted. And how was he able to become the player that he became? Of course, there was talent within him to become a great player.
Yes.
But you know what also helps streamline that and what helps further that development? It's coaching. And Joe Brady was in his ear all the time. He deserves credit for that. He deserves credit for having Teddy Bridgewater last year play well for Carolina and Sam Darnold this year.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So who should LSU hire if Ed Orgeron gets fired? And I just think he will.
I think it's a matter of
time. Unless LSU runs the table or something this year, I don't see him sticking around. Who should LSU hire if they fire Coach O?